Well, what is going on, guys, and welcome into the video. Well, it's official. I completely screwed up. I know for many of you out there, that's no surprise at all, and go ahead and put your, smart aleck comments down below. I'm ready for them, don't worry about it. But seriously, I screwed up and bought way too early in this market, and guess what? I don't care. Not one bit, not at all, not even a little bit, I just don't care. And I don't care because there is no way I am repeating my biggest mistake ever that has cost me millions of dollars over the course of the past 20 plus years. And you heard right, I said millions of dollars. So let's walk through kind of that bigger mistake specifically, and also why the mistake that I made today, by buying too early, may not be a mistake at all. So make sure you stick around to the very end because there's information in there that applies whether your account is $2 million or $2,000 or even $200. It applies to all of them. And if you get any value out of this video at all, make sure you like the video and remember to do that for all the creators that you like, as that is how the YouTube algorithm works, unfortunately. And the quicker you do it, the more you help that creator. Now, today's video is kind of a condensed version of a much more detailed version of a breakdown of a stock that you can find inside the Market Insiders private group, where the sale is finally ending in a few days. And we have over 100 different tutorials and lessons on this topic. And it's also where we have lessons on mastering your money, building up passive income, and retiring early and being financially independent. You also get direct access to me directly through DMs. We got live streams, and you see every buy and sell I make in real time. And you get my watch list with price targets too. So make sure you lock in your discounted membership now, as the price is going up in just a few days. But don't worry, you get to keep the discounted price for life as long as you stay a member. And also remember, not only are you investing in yourself and your family, but you are helping out others in need, as half of everything goes to charity. Alright, so I apologize in advance for the lack of graphics and all that good stuff that's normally in a lot of my videos. My time is really condensed this week, but I wanted to get this out to you all. And don't worry, this will apply to you if your money loop is only giving you $200 a month to put into stocks, or $2,000 to play with, or whatever the heck the number is that you get to play with. This applies to everyone, and I will show you at the end how and why. So my biggest regret is exactly why I keep buying this market, despite it basically being a dumpster fire at this point. So let me first prep the stage with the tech bubble first, and then we'll kind of move through the rest so that way this all makes sense. I did what many of you guys did back then last year. I bought all the hype stuff at the top of the bubble because, stocks only 10x every year and investing is easy. Just pick a company that says .com, don't do any due diligence, no valuations or price targets, just pick one and make bank. I mean, it's simple. Well, that didn't go well at all for me, and I lost my shirt. So the first mistake right there, and most here have made that one too. So that was kind of my first mistake. We've all been there. And the second mistake, I didn't buy the crash like I should have. I mean, after the market massively corrected that bubble, I didn't buy because stocks are a scam, they're manipulated, Wall Street takes your money, the internet is a fraud and won't be around, and all the noise like that was around at the time. I mean, it seems kind of silly now, but back then the majority of the people thought that the internet wasn't going to be around, and I actually hear a lot of those same things I just said discussed today. I was thankfully young enough to see there was a future there with the internet, but I still wanted to listen to smart people who know better than I. I was a young guy back then, which, as we all know now, is not the right move either. Doing your own due diligence, if I hate that word, I can't say it right most of the time. Anyways, doing your own due diligence and analyzing and looking for yourself as to what the right move is what's most important. And because I partially listened to the narrative, it induced my third big mistake, and that is I only bought just a little bit of stocks that I wanted to buy after the bubble burst and stocks started to climb back up again. Now, don't get me wrong, there were many other mistakes made too. I made mistakes everywhere all the way around during that bubble, but those were the big ones that I wanted to touch on today. Now, basically take that time frame and fast forward to the financial crisis. Yes, there was other stuff in between, but just to keep this simple and to illustrate the point, let's go to the financial crisis, which was way worse than what we are in right now for reference, by the way. I mean, seriously, talk to me when unemployment is over 10% and GDP growth, if I could talk today, is negative for an entire year. Not trending down or slowing or going from 7%, which is actually ridiculously hot, to 4% or 2%, but actually contracting negative. That is what we had back then. Thankfully, I'd learned from the first crash not to buy the hype, so I was in a good spot as it all unfolded. And don't get me wrong, I took a beating, but not like others that chased the run up in 2007. But of course, I still made big mistakes. I still somewhat listened to the narrative. I hesitated to buy the initial bottom because of what the narrative and kind of what the thinking was at the time, that it may go lower, so I'm going to wait. And then we had double dip recession fears, the Fed doesn't know what it's doing, our government doesn't have a clue what they're doing, and all kinds of good stuff like that. And does any of that sound familiar to you at all? So I didn't repeat the first mistake completely. I did buy, but I missed the bottom by several months and didn't buy aggressively because of all this noise. And now I didn't completely sit on the sidelines either, but I was pretty cautious at the time. But as you noticed, I made one mistake across both crashes that in hindsight kept me from making way more money than I did eventually make, but the amount of money I would have made easily would have been 10 times more. And that is, I did not buy and buy and buy and buy during times like this, and I instead listened to the narrative at times instead of looking at the long-term reality of the actual situation instead of just the short-term reality or perceived reality of what was going on. My only regret is that I didn't buy more aggressively. Now, yes, I bought, and yes, those Apple shares I bought after the tech bubble that turned into a 7-figure position is nice. I agree completely. But I should have owned 10 times more shares and had a lower cost basis, but I listened to the noise and didn't have a good plan, and more importantly, I didn't buy despite losing money in the short term because I wasn't looking long term. Those shares of Apple and Google and Amazon that I bought during the financial crisis look incredible today. But again, I should probably own 5 times as many shares as those that I do right now, and I should have a lower cost basis than I do. I still regret that I didn't buy more of those stocks, more houses, and more real estate in general during that time frame. Yes, all of that turned out great in the end, but it should have been so much better than it was. Now, to be clear, I was far less cautious during the financial crisis than I was after the dot-com bubble, but still not aggressive enough to where I look back and not have that regret and that feeling of, man, I just wish I would have bought more. In both of those crashes, I was down after my buys and down big in some cases, but outside of my bust stocks like GE, I still wish I would have added more and added regardless of what the 1-year outcome would have been. I should have continued to aggressively average down. When Wall Street gets dumb, just do it again and rinse and repeat. So I will continue to average down during this current downturn, and it also illustrates why I don't care or even listen to the narrative anymore. It literally only made this regret worse. It was never helpful, not once, not ever. It never was helpful. Stocks that didn't get it as bad before are getting it far worse now, and kind of vice versa. And this is another reason why I don't wait. I just want to buy and buy and buy through the entire downturn. I have set up my finances over the last decade to take advantage of this time right here, right now that we are in. But my finances were not like this during the dot-com bubble burst. Heck, actually, to be honest, I only made like $25K a year back then. And although I was doing better during the Great Recession, it still was nothing like it is today. And before any of you guys out there say, hey, that's great, but I don't have money like you do right now to keep throwing at it. Well, guess what? You don't need it for this to matter massively years later. I was right there with you during the dot-com bubble bust. I only made $25K a year back then. Money was tight. And I still regret not buying more, even if it was only $200 a month more. I regret not doing what it took to get that $200 and putting that money into a burning market. And it's for this simple reason. $200 a month seems like an insignificant amount. I know, I agree completely. It seems like it wouldn't help you long term, especially when it goes to like 150 the very next week once you put it in there. But the reality is that not doing it cost me millions of dollars 20 years later at a minimum, and that's why I regret it right there. I didn't think it mattered either back then, but looking back 20 years ago, that $200 would have made a 7-figure difference in my portfolio. Those are the facts, and it's why this doesn't matter, even if it's all you can spare is that $200 a month. It's all about keeping the appropriate mindset and looking 20 years out, not 2 months out. You just got to kind of keep your mindset right and understand that $200 today can easily grow into $200,000 later on. You just got to understand that's how the market works. Now, it's not going to happen, tomorrow or in 2 weeks or in 2 months like the YouTubers promise you. But, I'm talking here over a 20-year journey or so. It can happen. For me, this has been a 20-year journey. But when I look back at it, my biggest regret is not buying more during times like this right now. And I'm not going to let that happen again. So hopefully this makes sense. And if you don't know how to plan and do evaluations, set price targets, and you need help and support doing these things during these troubled times, make sure you join the Market Insiders private group before the sale ends. And remember, that discount ends forever in just a few days. And click this video right here for even more stocks I've been buying during this downturn. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.